Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today on this beautiful Saturday afternoon. My name is Matthew Showman, and I am the director of FERRARA Showman Gallery in New Orleans. Been with the gallery for 15 years now. I began as a gallery assistant. Shortly thereafter, worked my way to curatorial assistant. When the director left, I took the director's position, and I partnered with Jonathan in 2015. The gallery was formerly Jonathan Ferrara Gallery. Some of you may know it, have been there before. And my name went on the door January of 2024. In the meantime, thank you. In the meantime, I've also served as the president of the Arts District, as well as many other positions within the Arts District New Orleans. I co-founded F-Stop 504, which is a photography collective in New Orleans. We host monthly events, usually photo walks or clothing swaps, different things to engage the community and specifically with photographers. I also host a quarterly arts incubator, which is essentially inviting people of all forms of the arts community to come together, exchange ideas, maybe start new projects together, and just offer resources to one another. So I'll dive right into sort of what my gallery structure is, and then we'll begin sort of generally talking about how a gallery and an artist work together. You're going to find as I go through all of this, every case is different. Every gallery operates very differently, I find, but there are some structures that are consistent throughout. I personally represent 40 artists, about a third national, a third international, and then a third regional to New Orleans or the Louisiana area. We host regular exhibitions. Each artist that I represent is offered a show every 2 to 3 years. That includes all of the usual things like insurance coverage of their work. I'm offering sales, I'm marketing their work, and the 50-50 commission split. I also help facilitate museum exhibitions with my artists. I take them to art fairs. I participate in art fairs across the country and formerly in Switzerland as well. And I also organize pop-up and collaborative opportunities for my artists, be that hair salon wants to have art in their boutique, but they can't afford to purchase art. I make a relationship with that boutique, put the art there, cover it with insurance, and then offer it for sale. And then finally, and the way that my gallery usually forges a relationship with a new artist is through our Call for Artists, which we host each year. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that more at the end of the presentation. Yep. Are you not seeing it on your end? Okay. Yeah, it's still in there. So I've given talks like this most often with artists who are maybe still studying, pursuing their MFA or BFA. And the reading that we normally use is what you see here on the screen. The book is called Artwork, and the author is Heather Darcy Bendari. I find this to be a really nice way to talk about artist-gallery relationships because it creates an analogy to relationships in dating. And I am going to walk us through these various phases, basically discussing just that. So the beginning of this is building your dating profile. When you're beginning to approach the idea of having a professional artist studio, there's certain things that you're going to have to market yourself from the very beginning, starting from scratch. I can't tell you strongly enough how important it is to have a bio, a statement, and a CV. Anything you can write about yourself in this bio, talking about your professional history, maybe exhibitions and press, or even the smallest of opportunities that you've pursued, that's where you want to talk about that. The statement is where you're discussing more about what the ideology of your work is. I know a lot of artists don't really love to give away too much and sort of peel back that veil between the studio and the viewer, but you want to make a way for the viewer to enter into your work and connect with your work if that's not already obvious to them. The CV is where you're going to just basically rattle off a list of everything you've ever done, beginning with education. You're going to talk about solo exhibitions, group exhibitions, opportunities. Again, like talking about this in the bio, you want this to be something that is kind of, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. Something that is reviewing everything that you've ever done in a professional setting. Documentation, I have this in all caps, photos of your work. You want to have not just head-on views of your work, but also additional views, contextual views, letting somebody who maybe isn't experiencing your work in person feel like they are on the internet, because so much of our business has gone to the digital. And finally, progress shots. This is sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. So this is, I leave to the artist to decide. But if you want to show how you arrive at the final work without giving away too much of your process, that is a really great way to sort of illustrate how you're creating your work. I tell every one of my artists to maintain a contacts list, anybody you've ever talked to. It could be somebody you met here today. It could be somebody interested in buying your work. It could be somebody that works at a museum. Just keep that contacts list. It will come in handy in writing invitations whenever you're having a show somewhere. Maybe when you do start working with a gallery, it's a good way to kind of connect with a broader audience when the time is right and you have something to share. Marketing. Marketing of yourself. You're going to want to have a website. You should keep a newsletter so that you can share these opportunities that you're pursuing, not just when you're having an exhibition, but maybe just to share new work, or maybe just to share what you're thinking about in the studio at any given time. And that is, again, going back to contacts list, why you want to maintain, like, collecting these names and emails and phone numbers. Social media. I hate social media. I don't do it for myself. I know that it's a necessary evil and a formality in this industry, and it really is a great way to connect with a broader audience. It's free, it's relatively easy, and you just have to cut out the time between making work in your studio process of doing this sort of easy free marketing. Community engagement, and this could be in a number of different kind of ways to interpret this. It could be as simple as attending a workshop like this and just coming and meeting people and exchanging your information, getting to know others and letting them get to know you. It could also be through donations to organizations when they're having a silent auction and sharing your work, again, with a greater audience just when you're sort of beginning your career. And finally, continuing education. I think artists are always seeking to learn more. A workshop like this is another example for this category of things and ways that you can continue to learn throughout your career. So now we're moving on. We've built our profile, and now we're in single life. This is sort of what I interpret as like your initial exposure. So again, we go back to CV building. What are you doing to keep growing this CV? Of course, you have education. Are you doing continuing education? How can you keep building to the knowledge that feeds into your studio process? Workshops, again, here we are. And this can be attending workshops. This can also be serving workshops, coming in, partnering with an organization like ACA and teaching others about how you make your work. University exhibitions, like I said, no opportunity that you've pursued is not valuable enough to be on your CV, particularly when you're beginning your career. And then finally, relevant coursework. If you don't have a lot to fill in your CV when you're just starting out, you want to just put anything that relates to your studio practice. It could be talking about an award you got in a painting class, or maybe a ceramics course that you took that really influenced your work. You just want to make sure that you're giving as much information as you can in this early stage. Opportunities. This is something that I stress to even artists once they are already working with me, especially at the beginning of their career, to continue to apply to as long as they can, applying to these open calls, applying to juried shows, getting your work out. If you only have a show at a gallery every 2 to 3 years, what are you doing in that downtime when you're not showing at the gallery? You're still looking for more opportunities. And this is one that I think, even though it can feel as you're becoming more and more established, you're still putting yourself into a sort of scenario where maybe your work being present in that show is uplifting the other artists who are maybe having their first opportunity. Some places I recommend to look for such opportunities, I've just listed a few here. I know many of you are already familiar with NYFA. They are based in New York, but they offer opportunities across the country. But entry thingy, artcall.org, Cafe, which is Call for Artists. Just you can look at pages and pages of different opportunities in different places, physical as well as virtual. Once you've sort of gotten your feet wet and through some doors, group shows begin to start being offered, and this is a really great way to position your work alongside other artists' work and continue to get your work out there. Excuse me. Portfolio reviews. This is another way I've found artists for my own gallery, when different organizations will offer the ability to just go meet with different curators, different directors of museums and galleries. This is something that is maybe less common, but certainly a great opportunity. Residencies and fellowships, as you're getting more and more established, you might be able to carve out some time to really just focus on your studio practice. These are things that I'm often looking for in artists that are applying to the gallery. What have they done as far as residencies are concerned? Where have they gone to study? Who have they studied with in these residencies? These also, while you're in them, offer opportunities in many cases to meet with curators and museum directors who are coming through for the open studios there. Public art. This is actually how I came to know this organization so well at the ACA. I attended a previous workshop about applying for public art calls, and I learned a great deal from that. And it has made this a greater importance and something that I'm thinking about on a weekly basis at my own gallery. And then again, back to donations, museums, different causes, causes that you're passionate about, causes that you know that the society is going to have its eyes on. A silent auction, for example. Giving your work can feel maybe very uncomfortable, but I highly recommend this for just this initial stage of creating some sort of understanding of your work in a larger context. And making your own opportunity. If nothing else, you have a studio practice and you have a studio, invite people there. Ask people in the community, start inviting fellow artists, invite people from different organizations that maybe you've connected with. Start using that space not only to create work, but to create connections. And hosting your own event. this could be at your studio, as I said, or it could be something as simple as hanging your work at a coffee shop, hanging your work in any sort of public context where people might be able to interact with it on a day-to-day basis, but also that you can create an event out of it and invite people to come see your work outside of your studio. I know a lot of people keep their studios in smaller spaces in their homes. You might not want to welcome people into that space. So this is a way to kind of get your work out under your own control. And I end this slide with art-specific resume. After all of these things listed here, your CV is starting to get very long. And when you are reaching out to a gallery, you want to edit this down a little bit to some of the highest priority things on this list. So then you're going to sort of look over all of this and focus on what were the most formative lines on this longer CV that you want to focus on this art-specific resume. And if this would be edited for the different reasons you might be using it. If you're reaching out to a gallery, you're going to focus on exhibitions. If you're trying to get into a residency, and maybe that residency has a greater focus on education, then you're going to focus more on workshops and community engagement. Pricing. This, once again, is something that is very case by case, but a question I get so very often. The art market is highly unregulated, and sometimes something is worth what it is because we said so. And I find to do this in a very ethical way, there's some different ways to begin and also to maintain your price so that it is justified. When you're just starting out, I think it's best to sort of compare your work to other artists that are exhibiting within the same sort of context that you might be. So if I'm a photographer and I'm going to show my work at let's say the ACA, I'm going to look at what a previous photographer might have priced their work at, excuse me, if they were at a similar place in their careers. At the same time, there might be professional input that's available for this. If you're showing in a more commercial space, what does the director or the person running that organization think is sort of going to appeal to their following? Other factors that might go into this are what is the cost of your materials? Do you have fabrication involved? Is your process very time consuming? Think about how you would want to pay yourself back for these things and price accordingly. Additionally, as you begin to sell your work, you're building your collector base and you kind of can sense where their comfort level is at this early stage in your career. And that might help you price accordingly as well, based on what they feel the work is worth. I can't stress enough as well to remain consistent in this pricing. Don't put your work in one space that you feel more confident about it selling and put it at a higher price and then send it to another maybe smaller show and price it lower. You have to remain consistent across the board. And then as you sell and as you continue to increase your prices, to do so slowly. Don't say, I had one piece in this show, it sold, I'm doubling the price the next time, because that is just kind of offsetting this momentum that you're starting to create. Once you have sold a piece, that is the price, the value of your work moving forward. There's no reason to deduct the value of your price moving forward when a collector has already acquired a piece at this price and understands that to be the value of your work. This could reflect really poorly moving forward if they felt like they had overpaid and this leads to all sorts of other problems down the line. And keep in mind, everybody always wants a deal. There is almost no scenario where somebody purchasing an artwork from me is not asking for a discount. I like to apply a very easy system of what an appropriate discount is based on what type of collector it is. If it is a first-time collector or maybe somebody who just buys from me every once in a while, I would do 10%. For someone who is in the trade, let's say an interior designer or an art consultant, maybe extend a little further to 15. And then for museums, public collections, really important collectors that you would say, that name carries weight and I'm going to put them on my resume, 20%. I never discount more than 20%. Okay, so we've been building our studio practice and we're ready to start dating. We're ready to approach galleries. And now, how do we do that? This is probably the most important slide in this because this is how you're getting your foot in the door. And when you're beginning this, where does your work fit? I would start local. I recommend if you're a New Orleans artist, you're looking in New Orleans. I understand Lafayette does not have commercial galleries, so maybe you're also looking in New Orleans. Galleries that are representing regional artists is where you want to see your work go. So what type of work am I making? I see so often an artist that maybe is creating representational paintings is submitting their work to a gallery that only sells abstraction. So you have to be considering, like, is this gallery the right fit? I might love the gallery, I might love their program, but does my work fit in with them? And how does this gallery start forging new relationships? There's ways to find this out before you start speaking to the gallery, but I would suggest looking at their website and seeing if they have a line that says they don't accept any submissions, or maybe they have a call for artists, or maybe there's other opportunities for group shows. Maybe they accept proposals for exhibitions. Every gallery is going to be different, so try to do this research before reaching out. When you're ready to begin this outreach, I have a few lines of etiquette that I usually recommend following. Don't just go to the gallery and approach the gallery director and try to show them your work. Maybe begin by introducing yourself in a very short email, maybe say something to connect with them in some way to show that you're familiar with their program or you think that your work would have a very nice conversation with an artist that they represent. Think about a way to make this connection before just approaching. After sending this email, maybe you get a response, maybe you don't. I think that it's always good form then to follow up once or twice, and then maybe begin to attend an opening at the gallery and find a way to introduce yourself in person if you haven't quite gotten any sort of feedback, negative or positive. Portfolio reviews typically take place once a gallerist maybe expresses some interest in your work. So this could happen at the gallery, or maybe it is done virtually, maybe by FaceTime or Zoom, almost like a studio visit, but not quite. This is the gallery's way of sort of showing that they have a little bit of increased interest in following your career a bit. The studio visit is hopefully the final nail in this coffin of you are now entering this relationship with the gallery. And this is when they would come visit you, talk more about your work, and that is when you would start discussing maybe doing something like a show or forging a relationship in some way. When is the right time to reach out to a gallery? There's a number of ways to think about this. Maybe you have a new body of work that hasn't been seen yet that you want to share with them. Maybe you are having some sort of event. Your work is in a group show somewhere else in maybe a non-commercial space, or you're having an open studio and you want to invite the gallery to it. Additionally, I think anytime you have some sort of meaningful press, this could be a great time to reach out to a gallery, say, this critic or this art director wrote something about my work, and this is a great time to sort of cash in. Finally, invitations. I operate in a way that if somebody reaches out to me and invites me to a show of theirs, I am always going. I cannot stress enough that just making the invitation to somebody sometimes is enough to make the relationship, to forge the relationship and begin a conversation. So always just make the invitation. 9 times out of 10, you may get no response whatsoever, but just to be in their inbox and to make that outreach is so valuable. All right, so now we're getting married. Once you are ready to enter this relationship with a gallery, you need to put it on paper. Contracts are something that most galleries will write before you even send work to them. It might be a consignment. It might be a representation contract. What is being offered here? In the case of representation, you want to think about, is this exclusive? Am I only able to have my work with them? Or is it exclusive to a certain region? What does this entail? And is this the right fit for me? My gallery, we only take work on consignment. So I'm not putting any of my artists in a cage. I am saying, make this body of work. It is mine. I represent this work. But if you make another body of work, you might send that somewhere else and have another opportunity at another gallery so that you're spreading your work out farther into the world. Not just, it's just me, only I can do it, and for lack of a better way of putting it, I own you. I don't like this model. A lot of galleries still operate this way, and I think it's very outdated and very limiting to an artist. So what are your expectations? What is expected of you? And what do you need to deliver to this gallery? Most galleries, once you're under representation, your job is to make work and keep the gallery updated on what that work is that you're making. You want to collaborate with the gallery as often as possible. This is a mutually beneficial relationship. So if somebody is reaching out to you and is interested in your work, wants to purchase it, wants to show it, make sure that you're involving your gallery in these conversations. You're going to share any news, any press, any people that have, again, emailed you and had a conversation with your work. You want to make sure that you're keeping the gallery in the loop on this as well, so that the gallery can do its job in properly marketing you. And I already mentioned the noting of interest, but projects, ideas, anything that you're thinking about when you are regularly updating the gallery, you should be telling them about anything that maybe you want to realize that you're not quite there yet. you're not able to activate on it yet, just let them know they are there as a support system to help you bring these things to fruition. And they may have resources and ideas of how to accomplish that even before you can sort of see where you're going with it. Solo shows and group shows. As I said, most galleries will offer a solo exhibition every 2 to 3 years. In that downtime, you might be included in a group show. You want to make sure that when you're forging this relationship with a gallery, that you're being promised this regularity of exhibition. Marketing, this is pretty self-explanatory. The gallery should be promoting you year-round. Any of this, as I said, news and press and projects that you're working on, the gallery should be supporting. In development of your work, the gallery, the relationship, the support that they're giving you should be helping thrust you forward, following you through if there is a huge change in your work, if there's a huge new idea that you have. A gallery should be sort of open to anything and supporting that sort of growth and experimentation that you're seeing in the studio. And the gallery has an influence on your work, sort of, again, in that same mutually beneficial relationship, in that if you are seeking advice, if you're seeking criticism of your work, take the gallery into account in discussing that. Maybe there's something you're not seeing or an idea that they have. Maybe within your experimentation, you want to go one way, the gallery is suggesting another. Work together to find some balance in that. Maybe you can do both. Maybe you don't take all of the gallery's advice and you want to continue on in your own thing. Make sure that you are weighing that in your mind to not allow the gallery then to have too much influence and you get into a situation where you are making the same work over and over again because it's selling. I see so many artists doing this and that their work never grows as a result of this gallery just saying, okay, you're going to make money. And is that enough for you? And in some cases, maybe it is, but I don't think that that is sustainable. So there's compromise in this relationship. 50% seems like a lot of money to give away when you are working day in and day out and putting all of yourself into the work that you're making. Why should you give away so much? Well, sales don't happen easily, and there's a lot of work that goes into this. And a gallery brings with them not only that business side of making the sales happen, but the time and the energy that would take so much away from your studio work if you had to do this yourself. The gallery is also operating somewhat of a machine of this Rolodex that it maintains of collectors, that maybe are interested in other artists' work that they can sort of cross-pollinate to then also be interested in your work. Sales happen in a variety of ways. As I mentioned earlier, it's very important to have very good documentation and photography of your work because by and large, this is happening by the internet, sight unseen. I would say about 80% of my sales happen online to somebody I never meet in person. It takes a lot of time and energy, as I've already said, with relationships new and old with these collectors, and sales is the main thing that a commercial gallery is offering you. But they also offer other responsibilities in that they are the tenants of your work. They are meant to be ensuring your work. This is something you're going to want to make sure you're seeing in any contract you're forging with a gallery, that if it's being placed there, It's going to be in safe hands, and if anything happens to it, you will be compensated for its loss. That you're going to get regular exhibition. Again, every 2 to 3 years is the standard for most commercial galleries, but some maybe will just be offering a one-off exhibition. What does that mean then for the percentage you should be giving them? I think that if a gallery is not investing in you for many years to come, then their percentage should be a bit smaller, maybe 60-40. In some cases, I've even seen 70-30. A gallery is also meant to be marketing your work, as I discussed earlier. They should be taking care of all of the shipping, the logistics. Again, you are just meant to be creating work, and they are there as your professional resource. Again, operational costs that the gallery is enduring is feeding into the reason why this percentage is so high. Your gallery might also be taking you to art fairs or placing ads in magazines and various periodicals. This costs a great deal of money. This might be something that you have a special arrangement to share in the cost of, but most often the gallery is covering that completely. And again, this feeds into the 50%. Opening the relationship. You've been with this gallery for some time now. What is the future of your career? Are you seeing success with this gallery? Is this something that you want to continue to foster and move forward with? Or do you have other goals? Are you maybe seeing more success from yourself directly to clients? Are clients coming straight to you? Are you considering opening your own gallery? Many have made that a successful model, being a self-run artist gallery. Or are you looking into maybe spreading your reach? You forged a relationship with a gallery locally, but maybe now it's time to start working with a gallery in another state where maybe you see a lot of your work is selling to. This is a really great way to expand your reach. You might also have solo projects in mind, be it public art, or maybe you're working on an exhibition that really has no commercial viability, but is something that would be really great in a more educational setting or a museum setting. Your gallery is there to help you with that, but also it's something that you are doing somewhat separately from the gallery. Breaking up, it does happen. You have to keep in mind if and when the right time comes to separate from a gallery, what is your reasoning, and is it influenced by the market, or is it the gallery is just not upholding their end of the bargain? When you leave a gallery, I recommend always leaving that door open, not burning any bridges. You never know if they've already established a collector base for you. I've seen it many times. People will continue to come to that gallery to make sales of your work. And so you want to be able to still collaborate with them, but maybe shift your energies elsewhere and begin working with a completely different gallery altogether. When you are ready to leave a gallery, you are owed many things that you have owned the entire time you've worked with them. Your images, of course, you should already have those, but if images were made by the gallery, you should collect those, as well as your entire collector list. Anybody who's ever bought your work is meant to be shared back with you. You should be able to follow where your work has gone, because hopefully, years down the line, you'll have a museum exhibition and you might need to loan things back. And finally, I think it's really important, especially as you begin to collect multiple galleries. Some artists can have upwards of 5 or 6, to have one sort of be home base, who is kind of your rock that is going to go to bat if something goes south with another gallery that you're working with, or is able to jump on logistics if, as you're shipping work around, you need a little extra help. Always maintaining one strong relationship is so important so that you're not just left high and dry dealing with insurance or, God forbid, something becomes litigious and you're hiring a lawyer and this is all on you as an individual. Finally, I want to just add this shameless plug before I open up for questions, and that is my gallery, as I mentioned, hosts an annual call for artists, and this is the way that we really bring new artists into our program. This is the 30th year of this call, and for the first time ever, the gallery staff, including myself, will be the jurors of the exhibition. So I just wanted to share this opportunity with you. This is one of those opportunities which I referred to earlier, and I hope that if you look at my gallery's program and you think that you might be a good fit, you would consider applying for this as well. And with that, I think I'll open it up for questions. I know that I kind of brushed over a lot of things and there's a lot of really dense ideas, but when I've given this sort of talk before, it's been more question and answer so that I can really get deeper into the things that you're most interested in learning about. Yes. For painting, and yeah, I would say so. Photography, maybe. When you get into sculpture, that's a whole different story. Are you a painter? Yeah. I would say when you're beginning, you kind of should set sort of what is, if you're working in the same size always, then that makes it easy. But if you have sort of a mid-range, decide kind of where you want that to be, and then kind of create a curve up and down. If you work very large to very small, if you price per square inch, you'll find smaller works are almost priced at nothing, and larger works are insanely out of whack. So kind of use that and then find a graduation, be it like every 6 inches of increase, you're increasing by $500 maybe, or $1,000. That will keep things much more in line. Oh, sorry. And the question was, do you price per square inch? Sure, sure. So the question is to discuss a little bit further artists who have multiple galleries, how many galleries is maybe the right fit, and how to go about this. Uh, it's really up to the artist, I think, how many relationships they want to tend to, because working with a gallery is demanding even when you just have one. I think the most sort of successful and smooth running would probably be around 3 galleries, and that's usually spread across different continents, just because living in the United States and being such an internet savvy world, people will be going to like Google an artist's work and then see, okay, they have a gallery in the States, they have a gallery in Europe, like I live in the States, I'm going to purchase from the gallery in the States. There's not really so much need to, other than just to have a physical exhibition, to have so many galleries in the United States, because it's not difficult for a client in LA to buy an artwork from a gallery in New York, vice versa, or from New Orleans. Like we've seen how so many galleries have lost this foot traffic, and sales have increased again because of the internet. Um, to think more about getting more galleries, this is something that not every commercial gallery is going to offer help to their artists in doing so. I see why it's so important, so I do help my artists identify and approach additional galleries. So if you have a very supportive gallery director and they understand that, okay, I'm showing this artist and this work is doing really well, and maybe I've sold a few pieces to clients in Asia, and I think that they should have a gallery in Asia, then they would be able to help you sort of open those doors, and you're much more likely to have success in that outreach to another gallery because you already have the help of a gallery director versus just being an individual artist saying, please show my work. Does that answer all of that? Yeah. 40. Yeah. Um, it depends, and it depends on what type of work it is, because if I have interest in starting relationships with maybe 5 painters, I can only really introduce maybe 2 or 3 in a year's time, because I also have responsibilities to my existing artists to make sure that they're having exhibitions. Whereas if you're a sculptor, that might be much easier to find floor space to place your work within maybe another exhibition. Yeah. Oh, me too. I've definitely seen, well, let's step back a minute. We had the pandemic. Everybody was stuck in their homes. They were redecorating. They were adding on to their homes. They were finding new joys to have within the home, even as far as having Zoom backgrounds. I had so many people purchasing art specifically to be their background for Zoom meetings. This was a huge bubble. I saw some of the best years I've seen in my 15 years at the gallery in that sort of late 2020 to mid 2022 time period. The real estate bubble burst. People were all going back to work, and interest rates went up for homes, and the market started to slump. There was a huge drop off, I would say, in mid 2023, and just like really hasn't rebounded for whatever reason that is. It could be ennui, it could be, you know, just what's happening in the world. And now, being in a war, people outside of the United States don't want to invest in American artists. So that's a huge part of my collector base that I've lost. I do feel that really since last fall, the American support and interest in collecting has ever so slowly started to pick up a little bit more, but it's still, we're very much in recovery mode, I would say. Is this sort of what you've read as well? Yeah. A lot of the things that I sort of densely covered as well are the product of so many questions that I've received from the multiple times that I've discussed this. So hopefully, if there was anything, if you want me to jump back to a slide and there was something you wanted to unearth a bit more, I'm happy to do so. I made this slide on pricing just for this because of a recent talk on this very subject I did at Tulane. And I want to say almost every question was about pricing. Well, I will make sure that I leave my business cards with Anna, and if anybody wants to talk about anything that they think about afterwards, or if you're just shy and want to have a more personal conversation, if you have specific questions about your own work, I'm happy to discuss that with you. Hmm. This is not common. No. Most galleries will, as I said, sort of put you, and I hope this is changing. I sense that this is changing, but that sort of exclusivity cage that the old guard of gallery owners and gallery directors felt like they're investing in you and your career, and so therefore they own you. They own every piece that comes out of your studio. And this is, again, like the industry standard that I walked into when I started in this business 15 years ago. And I saw it blow up so many relationships between galleries and artists. And the artists weren't able to grow because they weren't able to send their work elsewhere. They weren't able to expose it to new audiences. They were only being seen by whatever small following this one gallery had. And so I share this with every one of these talks that I give, but especially with my colleagues. And I sense that the tide is shifting. Yes.
Okay, so for everybody listening at home, legal representation is super important. There is a organization out of New Orleans called the Ella Project. They provide pro bono support to artists of all disciplines, but they have a really good legal team that can help at least with the, beginning processes.
Precisely.
Yeah. If you need anything deeper than that, then I would probably seek, um, you know, deeper, legal representation.
But at least from the beginning of your relationship, when you're forging this relationship, when you're signing a consignment agreement for an exhibition or a representation agreement, this will be written in legalese by the gallery's legal counsel. And even I get these documents from our lawyer, and I'm like, what does that mean? And how is my artist to know what that means? So I have to educate myself to explain it to my artists. While they should also have their own outside opinion, I'm able to at least understand what they're signing and explain that to them. But you want to make sure that you're covering your bases, that your needs are being met, and that you don't end up in a situation that you didn't mean to be in. Always. If you're told otherwise, that run away because your work is, you own it. The photographs of your work, you own that. If you sell a painting to private collector so and so, you still own the copyrights of your image. The client should never. And if the client asks for them, then walk away from that sale as well. And I've had that happen.
What is a good baseline for young artists to start at when they're looking for that gallery representation their first time?
What do you mean by baseline?
Like, can you recommend galleries who are looking for that emerging voice?
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing that research, again, when I was talking about sort of this early courtship, you're doing the research on the gallery. Does the gallery say that they are representing emerging artists, or are they saying that they only work with established artists? You want to look for that term emerging, and you want to see how are they finding these emerging artists? Maybe they're foraging them all from, artist collectives. In New Orleans, we have a really nice thoroughfare of artist collectives on St. Claude Avenue, of which they show national artists, not just local artists. And if you were attempting to forge a relationship with a gallery in New Orleans who's pulling a lot of artists from these shows on St. Claude, you're going to want to find a way to be in one of these exhibitions on St. Claude and make that connection. And I think that that's really sort of getting creative with how you are making this initial introduction rather than just sort of cold calling is something that you can put a little extra thought into. And
The group shows are super important.
Mhm.
So you've got one coming up.
Mhm.
ACA has a summer show coming out. So everybody in this room and who's watching is going to be submitting at least one piece of work to
Yeah.
2 shows.
Fantastic. I also recommend the Louisiana Contemporary exhibition at the Ogden Museum. That's an annual call. It takes place, the exhibition opens with White Linen Night at the beginning of August. I know every gallery owner on Julia Street is going to see who is in that show that maybe we weren't aware of, particularly those regional artists that are not in New Orleans, are not regularly showing in New Orleans, and maybe reaching out to you, but also when you're at that opening, you'll be able to meet them as well. And then Lemieux Galleries on Julia Street has a fabulous open call every year as well. It's called And Now for Something New. And their program is completely emerging artists and only regional. They don't show national and international gallery or artists, excuse me. So that as Lafayette-based artists or regional artists, this is a great opportunity for you as well. Lemieux. And Now for Something New. I think this will be the 14th year of that exhibition, the 30th year of mine, and LA Contemporary is at least a decade old. So these are kind of well-established exhibitions that do have some very strong pull, not just from people in the community, but also sort of national arts writers as well. So this is a great opportunity for some press. No Dead Artists.
There's acceptance dates, it's kind of the same work. If you get those, I don't know if you get in.
Like multiple calls that you're applying for at the same time?
Accepted to multiple, but
Yeah.
this is five.
Yeah.
Do that.
No, not at all. I mean, so the Louisiana Contemporary exhibition at the Ogden, their call ends at the same time my call for my show ends. And so often the Ogden has already chosen a work that I was going to choose from the same artist who got into my juried call. The Ogden is not so flexible about, finding an alternative, but I am. So I work directly with the artist then to, maybe I want to show more than what the artist applied with. So it's very collaborative. And what else do you have available in your studio? And what are you super excited about? Have you finished something new since you made this submission? Because that was 2 months ago. Hopefully you've been working since then. And so sometimes I get something even better than what I expected because it's the most recent work by that artist. Yeah. So galleries will usually be flexible in that way. Museums, there's a lot more paperwork. So I think that they're like, this is what we chose and this is what we want. Yes, yes. I would submit the most work you can for any given call. If they'll accept 5 works, submit 5 works. If they'll accept 10 works, submit 10 works. Because it's not, you take all 10 or nothing at all, they might just choose a few, but at least they had the opportunity without going to your website or going to your Instagram to learn kind of the breadth of what you're producing in your studio.
Matthew, I would like to invite you to our summer show so that you can see.
I would
some of
love
these
to.
people's work.
I would love to.
We have a group show that will happen in the theater, in the gallery downstairs. But I imagine a lot of these people will also be applying to yours, so
I would love to. And when does that open, the summer show?
in summer.
At the beginning of summer. Okay, great. So I will be able to then visit with your work
Yeah.
before you would ultimately end up in a lot of these open calls in New Orleans, because all of those are
Yeah.
really sort of August to October opportunities.
Does anyone have a gallery exhibition coming up?
I wanted to ask this at the beginning, but I wasn't really sure, and maybe it's better I ask at the end. Does anybody already have gallery representation, or is anybody, you do? And does anybody, do they feel that they're at the point where they're ready to really begin working on that? Okay, well, that's great. And I hope maybe this was helpful in some ways in guiding you through this very scary and vulnerable process.
If nobody else has any questions, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us today. I'm sure he'll be around for a few more minutes.
Yeah,
If anyone
I'll
has
hang
any
around.
one-on-one questions. I think your contact details were easily.
You have them in my email,
Yeah.
but I'll leave some cards as well.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks, Matthew.
everyone.